we thought we could do is we could go into the cafeteria, grab a big salad sandwich, and take it back, have our lunch, and then have to use lunch.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is presentation time, and we're talking about renovating to age in place. Our presenter, Lou Orazem, is the owner of Inspire Homes, a design-build firm specializing in renovation projects in need of design solutions. He has a degree in urban and regional planning, and Inspire Homes has been a member of the Building Industry and Land Development Association, BUILD, since 2008. They have won multiple Best Renovation Awards, including most recently Best Universal Design and Renovation, and he has served on the board of directors for BUILD as chair of the Renovator and Executive Committee. He's completed numerous industry certifications, including Adaptive Homes and Net Zero Homes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Lou Orazem.
Thank you, Ty. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to today's presentation. Quick show of hands. How many of you are here because you have current disability or physical needs, or somebody you live with has some sort of a disability and you're looking for help or advice on how to renovate? Anybody? Okay, a couple of hands came up. Very good. And how many of you are here because you are thinking about the future and what your future might look like, and will you have to renovate? A lot more hands came up. One final question. How many of you want to live in an institution? No hands, but a few laughs. Thank you. So today's presentation, I am going to talk about designing and renovating to live and age in place. We're all going to age, but what we really want to do is we want to live in place. We want to live where we are and stay where we are and not end up in an institution. So today's presentation, I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up for questions after that. And I also have some resources for you, for those of you who stay till the end. I have some resources that you can take home, as well as a accessibility guide that you will be able to download on your computer and have as a reference. So a little bit of background on me. When I was 21 years old, my dad had an operation for a brain tumor. And while the operation was successful in removing the tumor and prolonging his life by another 15 years, it unfortunately affected his sense of balance. And for the rest of his life, he was not able to walk alone, had to use either a walker or a wheelchair. I was still living at home at that point, so I was living with a father who was in a wheelchair, and I learned very quickly that houses are not designed and built very well to accommodate people that have disabilities. A few years after that, my grandmother moved in with us. She was also in a wheelchair. So for 8 months of my life, I lived with 2 people in a house that were using wheelchairs. So I have a lot of experience in seeing how people use a space, how a disability can affect how they use a space. And I was in banking for many years, but for the past 20 years I have owned my own company, Inspire Homes, and we have been designing, building, and renovating spaces. And 10 years ago, we were approached for the first time by a person who wanted specifically an accessible bathroom renovation. And we renovated a bathroom successfully. It looked great. We put it on our website. Google picked it up. We were on the first page of Google and have been there ever since. And now accessible renovations are a big part of a big part of what we do. I have taken training in accessibility. I've completed Canadian Home Builders Association Adaptive Homes program. We also have 2 designers on staff, both who have interior design degrees, and one has a certified living in place designation. And very recently, we were awarded a best renovation for a bathroom renovation. So best renovation universal design. And on the screen is a picture of our 2 designers, Stephanie and Johanna, receiving an award for a best renovation. And you'll see a picture of it shortly. Accessibilities. So the average house sucks. It is not built to accommodate people with differing needs. Most houses are built to accommodate people from the age of about 10 to 50. When we're less than 10 years old, our parents are child-proofing homes so that they're safe. And once we get past 50, we start to see that the house is just not as good for us as it used to be. We may not have a major disability such as being in a wheelchair, but we find that maybe the lighting isn't good enough anymore. Or maybe those lower cabinets in the kitchen that have doors, our knees just aren't good enough that we can't get down and get into those cabinets. So whether you have a major disability or just you're getting older, once you hit past 50, the average house just sucks. And we're not building them the way we should to accommodate people of every ability. So what are the differing needs that people have? The most obvious one is if they have mobility issues, if they're in a wheelchair, if they're using a walker. And this is where people notice it the most, when they can't walk up the stairs, when the wheelchair doesn't fit through a doorway, when they can't bring the wheelchair through the front door of the house. So that's the most obvious one, and that's the one that people call us about most often when they're looking for a renovation, because they have that mobility issue. But there's also other issues. There are sensory issues. So this is where some of your senses may not be working properly, or where you have some disabilities with your senses. The most obvious one is vision. As we age, our eyes need more light to be able to see what they saw when they were 30 or 40 years old. Another sensory condition is autism, and if you're living with somebody with autism, there are design solutions, there are things that can be changed and adapted in a house to better serve somebody that has autism. A third need as people get older is cognitive. And this is specifically when people start to experience dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and their mind starts to go. And there are ways that houses can be adapted and changed to make things easier for people with cognitive issues. And it may not just be dementia and Alzheimer's, but it could be somebody who has cerebral palsy, and their mind is working at a younger level of a 5 or 10-year-old, and a house can be adapted and made to work better for somebody of that age or of that mental ability. So there's the cognitive issue, and then there's the short term, and this is somebody that maybe broke their ankle and can't climb up the stairs, or they broke their arm, and all of a sudden they're finding that it is harder to function in their home than it was when they were fully able. So the needs are not just mobility, that's the obvious one that people think about all the time, but there are sensory, cognitive, and other short-term needs that can be addressed with design and renovations. So I'm going to show some pictures and talk about the various needs that people have and how they can be solved. First one is mobility and access to a house. How do you get into a house? Most houses have multiple stairs. Ramps are a solution. When you have 4 or 5 stairs, ramp may not be a solution because the ramp can't be long enough. You might need a lift. The next question is, how do you get through the door of a house when it's not wide enough? The door is inside of a house. What is the width of those doors? And then how are those doors opened? Is it a knob or is it a handle? As you get older, if you develop arthritis, you may not be able to turn that doorknob anymore. So if you're renovating, a handle is a much better option because a handle can be pushed. rather than a doorknob that has to be gripped and grabbed and turned. Mobility issues as they relate to bathrooms. So this is a recent bathroom renovation that we concluded, and I'm standing in the shower area looking at the shower and looking at the rest of the bathroom. The first thing you'll notice is there is no threshold, there is no curb between the shower and the rest of the bathroom. So this area here, it is completely flat and smooth. It's designed to roll in a wheelchair, to roll in a walker. In this case, it was designed for somebody who has a foot that drags, and they would hit a curb or they would hit anything that is raised up from the floor. So bathrooms, one of the obvious things is putting in a shower that has no curb that you can roll into. So if you're renovating now and you're thinking about the future, look at how you can incorporate a curbless shower into that space. The second is grab bars. Whether you install them now, whether you install them later, this bathroom has a lot of grab bars. If you don't install them now, at least put in the plywood in behind the walls so that it's easy to screw in the grab bars after. And rather than guess at where you might have to put it, a sheet of plywood's $50. Just put it around the whole bathroom, and then you can install a grab bar anywhere you want to put it. Another thing we like to do is when what you'll see here is this shower, this handle where the shower is attached also serves as a grab bar. So this shower hand slides up and down, but it also serves as a grab bar. So we like to put in things that have multi-purpose into a bathroom. So whether it's a towel holder that can also serve as a grab bar, because if you need to grab something, it should be sturdy enough to hold you, whether it's designed as a grab bar or not. Everything can be a grab bar, and there are solutions out there for that. Bathrooms, continuing on. So another bathroom renovation here. What you see is that there's a cutout under the vanities so that a wheelchair or a walker can roll under it, and it is easy for somebody to use the vanity. Another interesting feature on this bathroom is this mirror. If you'll notice, it has the holders are on the sides, and it tilts up and down. And the reason it's designed that way is so that if it can be used by regular family members who are standing, or it can be tilted so that somebody who is in a wheelchair or a walker and is sitting can tilt it and still use the mirror. So mobility as it relates to kitchens. This is a recent kitchen renovation that we concluded, and the first thing is having wide aisles so that a wheelchair can roll in between the cabinets. The second thing you'll notice in this is that there are drawers in every cabinet instead of doors, except in places where things pull out and have a specific purpose. The third feature in this kitchen is the cooktop is lower and the sink is lower. And they both have cutouts under them as well so that a wheelchair can roll underneath them. So this kitchen was specifically designed for a 38-year-old who uses a walker, and she is now able to use the kitchen independently and roll under the sink, roll under the cooktop. There's a wide turning area, and you'll notice there are no upper cabinets in this kitchen. Everything is a lower cabinet. Everything fits into drawers that can be pulled out and used. Picture of how the wheelchair rolls under this kitchen. And she loves to bake, and the mixer is too heavy to be able to lift it out of the cabinet, so we designed a flip-up tray for the mixer so that she can use the mixer. Condos are a specific challenge for accessibility. With condos, everything is fixed. It goes through concrete floors. Plumbing is very difficult to move. Generally can't be moved. You can't move a toilet in a bathroom because the drain goes through a concrete floor, and it's unlikely you'll get permission from a condo building to start relocating plumbing. Walls can be difficult to move in a condo as well. Sometimes you can move them to make a bathroom bigger. A lot of times you can't. And the biggest challenge with a condo is that we can't lower the floor and make a curbless shower. So on this, you'll see what we did is we did a speed bump into the shower where you can roll over a wheelchair, you can roll over a walker and get into the shower, but the water stays in the shower and doesn't roll out. So I'll talk a little bit about sensory needs and how it relates to a project. And this is a kitchen that I built 20 years ago, and it's actually my kitchen. When I put it in, people laughed at me. What they laughed at specifically was the pot lights. There's a pot light in this kitchen every 2 feet. And the electrician, everybody else that was on site was looking at it and going, why do you need that many pot lights? And we were in our mid-30s at that time. We did not need that many pot lights. For the first 10 or 15 years, we only turned the light on above the island. In the last 5 years, I have to turn all the pot lights on because my eyes are not what they used to be. So when you're designing for the future, things may be good now, but what do they look like 5 or 10 or 20 years from now if you plan to live in this house a long time? So lighting is one of those things that it may look excessive if you're putting it in now, and it may be excessive and you can control that with a dimmer, but if you're still in that house in 15 or 20 years, you will appreciate the extra lighting that you put into it. For people with vision issues, some of the other solutions is having a high contrast between walls and doors. Nowadays, one of the big trends is to paint everything white. The walls are white, the doors are white. If you have vision issues, you're going to have, if everything is the same color, you will have a very difficult time seeing the contrast between where is the door, where is the wall. So you need that contrast between the two. Vision issues, avoiding glossy surfaces and glare, avoiding tripping hazards, having the floors, if there's transitions between floors, having everything the same level, not having to have transition pieces or different heights, avoiding tripping hazards, and then if you have serious vision issues, it's all about storage solutions and having a place for everything so that you know where everything is and you automatically know where to find it. When I mentioned autism before as a sensory condition, one of the solutions on the autism, or one of the issues often, is noise. And so if you're designing for somebody that has autism, soundproofing is important. Choosing fixtures that may not make abrupt noises and be very noisy are important. That's backwards. So picture of good and bad here. This is a staircase, and you'll see that the stairs are stained a wood color. The risers are white. It gives a very defined view of where the stairs are. So if you have very low vision, you can see the contrast between the stairs. If everything was stained the same color, you wouldn't be able to see where the treads are, where the stairs are. This also shows you that that lack of contrast between the stairs and the wall. When the wall is painted the same color, there is no contrast there, which in this case it's not a dangerous condition, but it really illustrates the two things: the importance of contrast and what happens when you don't have contrast. Cognitive issues and how we deal with those. So the first one, and I had a chat with my designer on this because our designers are the ones that design these things. I don't know much about specifically cognitive issues. But the first thing she says is to have things that are very simple to use that you don't have to think about. So single lever faucets instead of having the separate hot and cold is a good example of something that's really simple. Another one is shower controls. There are simple shower controls. There are complex shower controls. So it would be choosing things that are very simple. Second one is avoiding things that are confusing, especially things that are reflective. Our designer said, for example, shower glass that is clear can be really confusing to people with cognitive issues. So if she's designing a shower for somebody that has cognitive issues and putting in shower glass, it's going to be some sort of a frosted shower glass that doesn't reflect the same way, and that makes it clear that there is something here, that it's not just an open space that you're going to walk into. A third is to avoid things that can be confused for something else. So again, this is a towel bar that might be confused for a grab bar, or a shower slide bar that can be confused for a grab bar. And here's an example of an accessible bathroom we did, and the slide bar for the shower control, for the shower head, also serves as a grab bar. So as this person ages and they may not remember what's what, if they reach out to grab that, they will be safe. So I've gone through some of the issues and some of the solutions, and now I'm going to talk about who's on your team. And this relates to who is on your team for designing and building the space. And so there are four primary people that are on this team. It's a designer, it's an occupational therapist, it's a contractor, and it's a caregiver. And each one of them is equally important and should be considered. The first is a designer. If you're designing for somebody who has these needs, or if you're seriously considering a renovation and thinking about your future, you want to spend time with a designer. Yes, you can bring a contractor in to go and take that tub out and put in a curbless shower. That's a simple one, but if you're doing an entire bathroom, or you need to make that bathroom work better, or you're looking at an entire home, a designer is important because the first is they're going to have the time to spend with you to identify your needs and figure out what the optimal solution is from a floor plan perspective and from a product perspective. You bring in a contractor, they may be very knowledgeable in what they're doing, but they're busy building. They're not going to spend hours and hours and hours with you to figure out what your needs are, to figure out what the optimal solution is. The designer is really the person who should be creating the floor plan, specifying the products, and working with you to identify the needs. A designer should have training. They should be trained in accessibility and have experience. So look for somebody who has the training, who has an interior design degree, who has taken training in accessibility design, as well as has the experience of doing it. The second is an occupational therapist. So if you're designing for a future, perhaps you're not using an occupational therapist, but if you have a current disability or your family member has a current disability, chances are You probably have an occupational therapist that you're working with. Have this person as a resource, use this person as a resource to review the design the designer has created and make sure that it's going to work for the needs that this person that you have or this person has. Usually from our experiences, when we give our designs to an occupational therapist, they will look at it and say, yes, this all makes sense. And that's the best case scenario, when everybody's on the same page and says, yes, this is a good solution. The third is the contractor. This is the contractor that is going to be building the space. And again, there's lots of contractors out there, but if you can find one that has experience in accessibility and accessible renovations, that's the best case scenario. They may be also able to refer you to a designer if you don't have a designer. The final one is the caregiver or PSW. So if you have somebody with a disability in your house, you may be the caregiver. Or you have the disability, somebody else in your house may be the caregiver, or you have a PSW coming in. But this is the person that is working with the person with the needs, and they understand, sometimes they understand better than the person who has the needs what needs to be done to accommodate the need. The other is the caregiver may have special needs of their own to be able to use that space. So you have two people in a tight space like a bathroom or a shower. So it's very important to get the caregiver's perspective on how a renovation will be done and what's going to go into it. In some cases, it may be a PSW. If you have a PSW that comes in on a regular basis, involve the PSW. In some cases, there could be also others. So I mentioned physiotherapists, other designers, anybody else that you're working with or that somebody may be involved, should be involved in making decisions. The more input you have, the better. So where do you find these people? The first is CHBA, so that's Canadian Home Builders Association, has developed a course called Adaptive Home. They rolled it out 2 years ago. It's a 15-hour course that contractors, designers, anybody who has an interest in accessibility can take. And along with that, they get a 400-page manual with diagrams, pictures, all types of possible solutions for accessibility needs and designing for accessibility. And you can go onto the CHBA website and find a list of those people. I have a paper here that I will have as a handout after that you can take with you that has that information on there, so you can look it up. Secondly, where to find a professional renovator. So the Builders Association has a program called Renomark, which has been around for 20 years. And Renomark was created to raise the bar and the professionalism in the renovation industry. And we have almost 200 members here in the GTA, and Renomark is across Canada, so wherever you are, you can find a Renomark renovator to help you with a renovation. And you go to renomark.ca. So one of the great things about the Renomark program is they require a detailed scope of work, a written contract, licenses, insurance, 2-year warranty. Contractors are required to participate in continuing education, which is very important. And Canadian Home Builders Association does a verification program where contractors have to upload their information every year to verify that they're complying with the terms of their membership. Finally, if you want to talk to a Renomark member, Renomark has a booth. There's a picture of it, or if you turn to your left, you can see it. It's right across the aisle. We have 3 or 4 Renomark members there today. 3 of us which have our adaptive home training as well and specialize in accessible renovations. Finally, our designer Stephanie has put together a 10-page home accessibility guide with pictures and pointers at various features, accessibility features, and you can scan this QR code and you can download that guide. I also have it on a piece of paper that I can hand out to you after, and you can download that guide and get our free home accessibility guide, which will give you pointers on if you want to DIY it or just get an idea of how your home compares against some of the best practices of accessibility. So thank you very much for your time, and now I will open it up for questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Lou? Right there, they're thinking about it right now. They're thinking about it. This guy's videotaping right now, so we're going to go viral. We're going to be viral.
I believe we've been on YouTube for the last half hour.
I know. That was an amazing picture you have of the booth right there. I like that. Or you could just turn left and look. It would have been neat if it was a live feed.
I didn't realize the booth's going to be right beside,
I didn't know
so
either.
I had to do a visual, some sort of,
I'm glad it was, because I couldn't find you before your presentation. It's a good thing you're right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how about a big round of applause for Lou doing a fantastic presentation. Now, you might be thinking of some questions. If you have questions, Lou's, are you going to be hanging over at the Renomark Build booth for a while?
Well, I will hang out here for a few minutes and answer any questions if you have any one-on-ones. I also have a one-pager you can take home with you here with links to Adaptive Home, Renomark, and our accessibility guide.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lou. Ladies and gentlemen, right there.